Howdy, people. So I haven't made a video in a while, but I started to kind of make videos about Steam. I have a previous one where I don't know, I talk about some Steam features and answer questions from the Steam Reddit in the most condescending, gatekeeping way I could, I guess. But whatever. I won't do that this time. I'll try to be nice. So one of the features that you don't ever really see anyone ask about it, but it's kind of like a major thing that should and does annoy people about Steam. And it really only applies if you actually own a lot of games. Like a lot of people don't. So when you're kind of scrolling through thousands of games, it just makes it a little bit easier to see what you're doing. So so what you're actually looking for can catch your eye without directly searching for it, which you could go up here and do ultimately because you're probably going to have to if you own over 1,000 games. But it's just like kind of a presentation thing. Like it makes everything look neater, and it helps your mental sanity. So that said, that thing is sort order. So yeah, I'm sure if you own a lot of Steam games, or just the right Steam games, I guess it really just matters what the title is. You'll notice a lot of these games are named or titled in a weird way that's just doesn't make sense. Like it's not in alphabetical order. So you'll have a game, and right now I only have one category showing, so there's only really one example on here. So you'll have a game like you'll have Resident Evil HD remaster, and then you'll have Resident Evil Zero that comes after it, which in this in this situation, I think the alphabetical order is actually correct because the way Windows or whatever the database, the way the built-in sort by alphabetical A to Z functionality is written. Um, uh, uh, Actually, what I'm about to say doesn't even make sense. Because technically, numbers should come before letters in alphabetical order. I mean, that's the way I've always known it, but whatever. So, you've got Resident Evil 1 is technically just Resident Evil. So it's Resident space Evil space, and then a forward slash, regular slash. And then you have Resident space Evil space Zero space forward slash. So the fact that there's a character there before the slash, I guess, makes it come after. Maybe that's why. I guess that makes it come after Resident Evil because technically zero comes before a slash in alphabetical order. That makes sense, I guess. But to a human being, that doesn't make any sense. So and plus, it's out of chronological order for the series, the canon, but it is actually, Resident Evil Zero did actually come out after Resident Evil HD. I'm sorry, Resident Evil remake. But regardless, I say forget that because I'd rather have mine in like actual story order. Ignoring that the rest of them aren't because all three of these games are out of order as well, and then you got these two that are technically the same story. Um, but whatever. So the point is, Steam does not have a function that allows you to change the way games are sorted. You can go up the sort. You can sort by all this crap. Size on disk, release date, Metacritic score, blah blah blah, etc. But you can't go in there and customize it any further than that. And if it doesn't make any sense visually on the video yet, for anyone who's familiar with a program like iTunes or specifically, we'll talk about Plex Media Server in this case because that's what I have open. So if you go into Plex, you can look at your movies and see, or your TV shows or whatever the hell, your videos essentially. whatever files you have sorted through Plex. So obviously, these movies, I mean, this is after I've edited everything. So like, if you look at the properties, technically the titles are Star Wars colon episode, 1, 2, 3, or I mean, technically the title for the original Star Wars is just Star Wars. The A New Hope part didn't happen until way after the movie came out, and there was actually a trilogy. So Lucas and company named them episodically. So if you actually look at the sort titles that I've set up here, you can see, sort title Star Wars 1, Star Wars. It's the same one. What? Star Wars 2. Star Wars 3. Because that was the only way to make them actually sort in order of release and of story order. And on top of that, I also have Rogue One and Solo, which if you don't edit the order, they're going to be way up here in the R's somewhere instead of nowhere near the Star Wars franchise. So I mean, it's really just like an OCD thing. Not even OCD, just people who like to be organized and find their stuff instantly. So like Rogue One is, in my thing, it's called Star Wars Rogue One, just because that actually puts it after the movie before it. Because in this case, even though it's not Star Wars 9, or I guess you could call it, according to the order, it does actually come after Star Wars, because you got Star Wars 8. The 8 is alphabetized before the colon. So then you got Star Wars colon Rogue One. And then Solo, let's see what I have here. Star Wars Solo is what I put it. So that technically comes after R. So, I mean, that's how that functionality works in Plex. So it's basically the exact same thing you can do in Steam. So like these, again, the actual titles themselves are not alphabetical at all, because the first movie was Resident Evil. The second movie was Resident Evil Apocalypse. The third movie was Resident Evil Extinction, which those would have been fine if those were the only 3 movies. But then, the next one was called Afterlife, which would have put it as the third movie when it's the fourth movie. And then the next one was Retribution, which would make it the fifth. Well, it would be the fifth movie still, but the fourth movie would be out of order. And then it's the same thing with the rest. Resident Evil, the final chapter, Degeneration as I just called it Resident Evil, colon 1. So the functionality is exactly the same in Steam, except that functionality doesn't actually exist. It's not actually a feature of Steam, which it's stupid, and it needs to be. And it must be at least like 5 years that it's been a known thing. I'm sure it goes back further than that. I'm sure it goes back farther than that, because the community forums have been a thing for a long time. The Steam Suggestions Forum specifically. So like anything you could possibly think of, I'm sure someone in that forum has been like, hey Valve, do this please. Get off your lazy butts, not making any games, and do something. So unfortunately, the only way to actually use this functionality is to use a third-party piece of software called SteamEdit. You can find it somewhere. Just type in, it's one word, SteamEdit. Right here. It's a very simple website. I mean, it's literally just a background color, a logo, some text, and a button. And then it gets more complicated, obviously, but it's all on the same page. It doesn't even have multiple pages that I know of. It's just click the download button, direct link to the file, no bullshit here, unlike most websites where you have to go through a whole bunch of redirects. So that'll give you a zip file. Once you unzip it, you're just going to get, the DLL file and the SteamEdit. So this program only makes changes client side, meaning it only affects your Steam. It does not send any data whatsoever to the Steam servers, meaning that there's no risk of getting banned because you modded your interface or anything like that, which other third-party crap will carry a risk of, like Steam Achievement Manager, or if you're cheating, I'm sure. I don't know. I'm not above doing illicit things, but I'll tell you for sure that I never cheat at any game, so I honestly have no idea. I'm assuming if you run some third-party cheat programs, then that's how people are getting VAC banned. And I'm sure there's people that are getting VAC banned for not even actually cheating. So the interface is very simple. You're just going to get a drop-down list of every single game in your library, which is a pain in the ass compared to something like Steam Achievement Manager, where you at least get an icon, and there's 8 icons per row or something. But that's the interface you get. I'm just going to make sure I'm actually recording here. That's not the right setting. I can't edit this setting because I'm... okay, cool. So anyway, so you basically just pick whatever game you want in your drop-down list. Unlike Plex, it's kind of a pain because you have to do them one at a time. Technically in Plex you have to do it one at a time also, but it takes less clicks. So first I'm going to have to edit one of them. What are we looking for here? Resident Evil 0. So you'll see the name is the actual name of the game, and then the sort as is by default, the sort as title is always going to be the actual title of the game. I haven't seen one that is different. I haven't really used this tool for a lot, but I highly, I doubt it. So you backspace or type over whatever's in there, put in the sort title that you want, and then hit save. And then we'll do the same thing with Resident Evil Biohazard Remaster. So we'll do Resident Evil 1. Technically just changing it to Resident Evil 0 on its own puts it in front of Resident Evil... sorry, I can't say the names of these games because they've gotten to the point where they're so ridiculous. Resident Evil / Biohazard HD Remaster. I don't know why they did that. They've done that with every single release on Steam. It started with Resident Evil 4 because Resident Evil 4 was actually the first Resident Evil game on Steam. That might be factually inaccurate because technically Resident Evil 5 and 6 came out on PC before Resident Evil Ultimate HD, Resident Evil 4 Ultimate HD did. The original Resident Evil 4 release on PC was before Steam had third-party games, so it didn't come out on Steam. But anyway, that's been the naming convention since at least 5, I guess. The original Resident Evil 5 was games for Windows Live, so I'm not honestly sure if it was even on Steam. I didn't buy it on PC, obviously, for years because I own it on every other system. So I'm just going to change this to Resident Evil 1. Hit save. Now the thing is, you won't see any changes right away, so you have to hit save and refresh, which is going to close your Steam, and then it's going to open it again because it has to reconnect to the Steam database for whatever reason. A lot of changes on Steam are like that. Like if you ever edit the UI so that, in the old version anyway, so that you can reduce the space between these two icons, you would have to save the file, close Steam, I wouldn't have had it open in the first place, to be honest, and then reopen it to see any changes. So if we go, my shitty segues, my segues there from my digressions. So go to my Resident Evil category. You see now Resident Evil 0 shows up before Resident Evil 1. And then it's not judged for this category. Like you can go to whatever your all games category is, assuming yours works. Mine doesn't. I had to manually go through, and I'm not even exaggerating. I had to manually go through and literally add every single one of these games back to to an all games collection because the new UI screwed it up somehow. So if you go to your actual library, you see the sort orders is still there because it should be. That's pretty much it. Now, if a new version of Steam comes out that like totally changes the UI, there's a good chance, especially if it's not a beta build, but if it's an actual new version of Steam, there's a good chance, I believe it says so on the website, that it's going to totally undo any of your local changes. I don't. Oh, there's actually a new version. So the one I'm using is old, or is it? I think I re-downloaded it because I didn't know where I put mine. That's a good point there. If two games have the same name, selecting one can be difficult. It's the same way if you look at your profile. Like if you add a non-Steam game because you bought it somewhere else or you torrented it or whatever, and then you buy that game on Steam, they're like, if they have the exact same name, the only way to tell the difference is just like alphabetical order. Like you have to just see which one is first in your library view before doing anything. So whatever. It's a cool little utility. If you're one of those people that doesn't trust third-party software, then I guess you're just going to be stuck waiting for Valve to do this. It'll probably never be an official feature, to be honest, because it's just not something that is important enough for them to care about. It's a shame because it's in like literally every piece of software that has digital content distribution, like anything that has you managing a library almost. Not anything, obviously. Like I don't think Amazon lets you do it, or Sony Ultraviolet, if that even still exists. I don't think it does, but I don't think Ultraviolet would let you edit sort titles either. But it's a thing. If you have a lot of games and you want them to be in a specific order, like another example is Tomb Raider. Like I think the actual titles of the Tomb Raider games more or less make sense, but you see, starting with Tomb Raider 3, they have a subtitle. So then there's a colon, Last Revelation, Chronicles, and then Tomb Raider 6 has to be special. Tomb Raider parentheses 6, The Angel of Darkness, the Tomb Raider Anniversary, Legend, and then Underworld. And then you have the new Tomb Raiders, which are just called, Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider. I just have these in alphabetical order, even though that probably doesn't make sense and I should probably change them. But I don't know. I like I said, I haven't really used this utility a lot, so I haven't spent a lot of time caring a lot about how these things are sorted. In the future I will someday, maybe. Hopefully before Steam has a new update that totally wipes everything out. But that's the video, more or less. That's how to change sort titles in Steam.